A man armed with 2 pistols this morning went on a shooting spree in 2 Arkansas towns, killing 7 people and wounding 4 others. Police say the suspect, Gene Simmons, had just...
Tonight we are learning more about an alleged murder-for-hire plot in Hot Springs.
His mother tells me she can't believe what has happened in her small community.
Brand new video just in from inside an Arkansas nightclub where a shooter opened fire.
I have a location in rural Crawford County to where the possible location of Cassie may be located.
In Bentonville, Arkansas, the hometown of Walmart, a trial is about to begin over the mysterious death of a...
I'm your host, Nicki T, and you're listening to Strictly Homicide, an Arkansas true crime podcast that discusses lesser-known cases out of the natural state. Thanks for listening to another episode of Strictly Homicide Podcast. I want to say thank you to all our patrons and everyone who rated and reviewed the show. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, or any other major podcast app. Make sure to stay tuned at the end of the episode to hear a few promos from some of my favorite podcasts. Warning: Strictly Homicide covers cases that involve sexual assault, violence, and homicide. Episodes may contain explicit language and are not suitable for young ears. Listener discretion is advised. Thanks for downloading episode 11 of Strictly Homicide Podcast. This will be the second episode in the cold case series, and I'm covering 3 different cold cases. Before I get into those, I do want to start something new at the beginning of each episode. I'm always posting about Arkansas recent news stories in the Facebook group, so why not share them on the episodes? In Jefferson County, the Sheriff's Department received an emergency call around 3 p.m. from Patricia Hill. She was reporting the murder that she just committed. Deputies responded to the Hills' home in Whitehall and found Miss Hill in the front yard, where they then arrested her. She admitted to killing her 65-year-old husband, Frank Hill. The body of Mr. Hill was found on the floor of their utility shed, suffering from 2 gunshot wounds. Miss Hill said she arrived home and walked into the utility shed to confront her husband. She said she disagreed with his recent purchase of a porn video, so she canceled the order. At that point, Mr. Hill was upset and managed to place another order of the said porn video. Miss Hill became enraged and she asked him to leave, in which he refused. She then went into their home and retrieved her .22 caliber pistol, went back into the shed, and shot her husband twice, hitting him in the head. In Haskell, Arkansas, a young man decided to play a game of Russian roulette with his father's gun and 2 friends while his parents were gone. After the first round, he wanted to continue, while the friends claimed that they tried to stop him. He then shot himself in the head and died. He would have been entering his sophomore year. In Proctor, Arkansas, a car was found in a branch of the Mississippi River with a mother and her 2 children inside. It is unknown if the mother drove the car into the water intentionally, and the investigation is ongoing. The children were 4 and 7 and were reported missing along with their mother. In Fort Smith, a car was reported stolen containing a 14-year-old boy. The boy's uncle stated that Michael was in the back seat asleep when the 2005 maroon Chevy Malibu was stolen while he went inside the gas station to purchase gas. The uncle's phone was later found thrown out the window near 16th and Jackson in Fort Smith. The police did find the car in Atkins, but the 14-year-old was not in it. Later, the police said that the boy was located with his father in Fayetteville and was never in the car. And last, a video recorded by an Arkansan went viral when his 3-year-old red heeler was howling in the storm. He sounded like a portion of Britney Spears' Toxic. I will say that when you play the 2, the portion of her song and the dog howling does sound very similar. The pup's video received 5 million views, 200,000 retweets, and 500,000 likes. The first case in this episode was recommended by a listener who also had the pleasure of knowing the victim. Patricia Guardado was known by Patty by her friends and family. She was a smart, beautiful, caring, and hard-working young woman. Patty devoted her entire life to her family, church, job, and education. Patty's parents owned a convenience store in North Little Rock, and she was born and raised in Arkansas. She attended and graduated from high school at Joe T. Robinson High School in Little Rock, Arkansas. She attended the University of Arkansas Little Rock and was to graduate in 2013. Patty had so many hopes and dreams for a successful future. While attending college, Patty also was a teller at Metropolitan Bank on McCain Boulevard in North Little Rock. Patty was known as the good one, and she never hung out with the wrong crowd or had any enemies. Patty only had one boyfriend, and they had broken up a year prior to her death. She was often asked out by other guys, but she always said no because she'd rather finish school first. On October 12, 2011, Patty's mother borrowed her car to take her sisters to school at St. Edward's Catholic Church in Little Rock. She returned home around 8:30 a.m. just in time for Patty to leave for her 9 o'clock class. Patty had to go to work after school, so she was already dressed in work clothes. Her mother remembers stopping her at the door to tell her that she looked beautiful. This would be the last time that her mother would see her. Patty drove to school and parked in the parking lot across from the school behind a Burger King. This was normal for a lot of the students to park there and be closer to their classes, even though the school did urge the students to park in the parking lots at Euler. After work, Patty would always call her mom and sometimes stop at the store to see her relatives. When her mother didn't hear from her, she called up to the store and asked if she was there, but they had not seen her. Her mom asked her cousin who attended the same class if she saw her at class that morning, and her cousin said that she did not show up. So her brother called the police to see if there was any accidents that could have involved his sister, but there wasn't. Now the family is beginning to worry. They called her cell phone continuously, but it continued to go to voicemail. The family was very worried by 7 p.m. because Patty would never do this. Around the same time, her mother put Patty's sisters in the car and headed to look for her. She drove to Euler and searched the area. Her sisters did spot her car in the parking lot behind Burger King, so they checked it out. The car was locked, and Patty did not leave any personal items in her car, like her purse, backpack, or cell phone. It appears that she exited the car to walk to her class. Patty's mom called the police and reported her missing. Law enforcement checked all video footages from the businesses near and found nothing. They tried to track her cell phone but came up with nothing. Her mom used social media and contacted the media to keep the case in the news with hopes to find her daughter. Her mom was disappointed with law enforcement because they weren't taking it serious enough during the crucial early hours. She was quoted saying, "I didn't feel like a lot of people were helping. It was hard for us to get any coverage. There were some channels that showed up, but it just felt like when the family was trying to get help in the community, people were slow to react." Her mother said that she did explain to the police that she wouldn't just take off, but the police weren't returning her calls. One student was driving by when she saw a few people out there searching. Even though she never met Patty, she pulled over and wanted to help. Father Taylor immediately began helping with the search. He created flyers and handed them out the day after she went missing. That same day, the family held a prayer vigil at St. Edward's Catholic Church. They expected 20 to 30 people to come, but well over 200 showed up that night. On Sunday, a fisherman made a call into law enforcement to report a body in the lake right off of Highway 365. Detectives arrived at the home and asked Patty's mom for her toothbrush to retrieve DNA. Even with the possibility that the body could be Patty's, her family still went out searching for her. On Monday, Patty's family and Father Taylor received calls from the detective. He asked that they meet him at the convenience store. Father Tyler met with the detective before heading to the store, and the detective did confirm what he feared. He asked if he should tell them or if Father Taylor wanted to. Father Taylor asked the detective if he spoke Spanish. When he said no, he said that it might be better for him to go ahead and tell them so that there was no translating. When they all arrived, the family members were immediately questioning the detective and father, but they continued into the store and asked for everyone to leave but immediate family members. Father Taylor then let Patty's family know that the DNA did match the body that was found near Sweet Home. Father Taylor said it was the hardest thing that he ever had to do. If you have any information regarding the kidnapping and murder of Patricia Garcia Guardado, please contact the Little Rock Police Department at 501-580-8706. The next case is a cold case about a young lady who was planning her dream wedding with her fiancé when her life was taken from her. On June 14, 2000, it was a typical summer night with a nasty storm rolling through Arkansas. Amanda Tusing, a beautiful 20-year-old from Dell, Arkansas, was at her fiancé's apartment in Jonesboro. Amanda had a curfew at 11:30 p.m., and Jonesboro was about an hour from Dell. She told Matt, her fiancé, that she was heading home. Matt begged her to stay the night due to the stormy weather, but Amanda had to work the next day, so she promised she'd call when she got home. She gave him a kiss and left. Amanda Tusing was born to Susan and Ed on December 6, 1979. She had a twin brother named Andy. They grew up in northeastern part of Arkansas and was a very active member of their church. Mandy, as she was referred to by her friends and family, was very popular. She was a sports fan and especially loved basketball. In junior high, she was on the basketball team with a friend who was known as the Jolly Green Giant. Because Amanda was only 5'2" and way shorter than her friend, they nicknamed her Sprout. That nickname pretty much stuck with her until her adulthood. Dell was a tiny town, so almost everyone knew who Mandy was. By 1:30 a.m., Matt was starting to worry, so he phoned the Tusing residence. When her mother answered, she informed Matt that Mandy had not arrived home yet. Matt told her that she left 2 hours ago and should be home. Matt then hung up and traveled down her route home while her dad and twin brother traveled the opposite way. On the side of Arkansas Highway 18, about 5 miles east of the St. Francis Bridge, her black 1992 Pontiac Grand Am was parked in a well-lit area with the windshield wipers stopped mid-swipe. The radio was turned on to her favorite station, and her keys were in the ignition and wallet and cell phone were still in the car. There was also a cold drink in the drink holder that was more than half full. There was zero signs of a struggle, but Amanda was nowhere to be found. On June 18th, which happened to be Father's Day, 3 days later, a motorist spotted what appeared to be a dead body floating in the Big Bay ditch off of Arkansas Highway 135, just north of Lake City. The location where her body was found was more than 12 miles from where the car was. An autopsy was performed, and it revealed the possible cause of death was drowning, but it wasn't officially determined. There was water in Amanda's nostrils, but none in her lungs. This would occur if she was dead before she entered the waterway. She had a small bruise on the back of her head, but there was no other visible injuries. It appeared there was no signs of sexual assault. However, some evidence could have washed away. Law enforcement began an investigation, but they had zero physical evidence. Law enforcement believed she was abducted and murdered before tossing her into the ditch. They also feel like it wasn't the first time this killer murdered someone. There were partial fingerprints found, but they were not identifiable. Law enforcement isn't even sure anyone else was in her car. Maybe she got out willingly thinking she could trust whoever it was. I know that everyone is thinking the boyfriend did it. Well, law enforcement questioned him more than once, and he passed multiple polygraphs. They did clear him as a suspect. Law enforcement checked with the convenience stores on the way out there, and there was no available surveillance video. Hundreds of leads were called into law enforcement, but after following up on all of them, none of the leads were useful. Her mother, Suzanne, said she believed that it was a police officer or someone imitating a police officer who pulled over behind Amanda and abducted her. Her mother was desperate to find out what happened to her daughter. So desperately, she eventually contacted a psychic, Carla Barron. They say the psychic was able to mention things about the case that she couldn't have possibly known and created a psychological profile on the killer. Although Susan and the detective were impressed, nothing came of the information that the psychic gave them. In 2006, that psychic was filming a show called Haunting Evidence and decided to cover Amanda's case on the show. The psychics on the show stated that Tusing may have pulled off the road during the storm due to lack of visibility. I know that I have driven in a lot of Arkansas storms and had to pull over. It is nearly impossible to see the road. She did pull off under a streetlight, and it's possible that a patrolman saw her, pulled his car over, got out, and tapped on her window. Amanda, assuming that the patrolman was going to help her, very possibly opened the door or window and gotten out of her car. It's also possible that it could have been a fake patrolman, someone imitating a police officer. The psychics believed that the murderer lived near the location of the crime. They were able to give a description of the killer, and a composite was created. Detectives considered the information that the psychics gave and also questioned over 200 people. They're relying on any tips and information that they can get because there is no physical evidence. There's very little information out there about this case, but it needs to be solved. During my research, I stumbled upon more hearsay on public forums than anything else. There are many theories out there, but I only saw these mentioned on public forums. It was mentioned that in 2007, the investigator was given a lead that someone overheard discussion about this case. FBI agents profiled the killer as a white male in his 50s. Most theories consisted of either a specific law enforcement worker who later committed suicide, a law enforcement worker who moved to Mountain Home, an unknown imitation law enforcement worker, the blue light rapist Robert Birmingham, which is a ridiculous theory since he was arrested in 1997. But the one I saw the most was an ex-county sheriff's deputy that lived around the area but died from cancer in 2009. Rumor was they suspected him but couldn't provide enough evidence. If you know anything about this case that could help police track the killer, you're urged to call the Craighead County Sheriff's Office at 870-933-4551. With any cold case, multiple theories will follow, but one that caught my eye actually links this case with another cold case. While I agree there are similarities, I think it's just a coincidence. The murders occurred 21 years apart, and it's not uncommon to find the body away from the victim's car. I personally do not think they're connected, but I do want to tell Dana's story as well. July 25th marked the 29th anniversary of the unsolved murder of 18-year-old Dana Stidham. Dana was loved by all. She was extremely close to her cousin Kristen Smith because they were only a year apart. Dana and her brother Larry were the best of friends, only 3 years apart. Dana even wrote notes for Larry at school when he missed too many days. After graduation, she got an apartment with her brother Larry and a roommate in Centerton, only a 10-minute drive from her parents' house in Hiawassee. She was very beautiful and extremely popular. Dana was petite at 5'2" and barely 100 pounds. She had a dark complexion and dark hair. Dana was preparing to enroll in the University of Arkansas to take art classes. Dana came home to do laundry at her parents' on July 25, 1989. Dana was wearing white shorts and a white top with red lettering and red socks. Her dad, Lawrence, was home that day because he was sick. Dana offered to run to the store to get him some medicine. She headed to Phillips' food store in Bella Vista where she had worked during the school year. She bought Alka-Seltzer, dishwashing soap, and sugar at 3:17 p.m. according to her receipt. There was a store a few blocks from their home that was closer, but Dana avoided the store because the owner's son was always there. The owner's son, Michael, also went to school with Dana and had a crush on her. He repeatedly asked her out and she repeatedly said no. Georgia Stidham arrived home from work around 4 p.m. and Lawrence told her that he was concerned a bit because Dana ran to get him medicine at 3 and hasn't returned. They were concerned that she may have had car trouble, so they went out to see if they can find her. After they couldn't locate Dana or her car, they stopped by Phillips where everyone said she had left the store around 3:30 p.m. They returned home, and when they realized Dana was still not there, they called around to friends and family. No one had seen Dana after 3:30 p.m. This type of behavior was not like her at all. Her whole family was worried. In fact, everyone who knew Dana was worried. That's how much it wasn't like Dana to do this. Her brother made the call to Benton County Sheriff's Office around 9:15 p.m. 30 minutes later, a BOLO was released for Dana and her gray Dodge Omni. Early the next morning, Karen Myers, a Bella Vista sergeant, was on her way to work driving south on US 71. She noticed a car on the side of the road. When she got to work, she heard of Dana's disappearance and the description of her car fit the one that she saw on the side of the road. So she drove back to that car where the keys were still in the ignition and the driver's side window was halfway down. The rear tire of the car was also slightly deflated. Officers arrived and began searching the car. They located the receipt from Phillips with the timestamp of July 25, 1989 at 3:17 p.m. But there were no other personal belongings in the car, and Dana was nowhere to be found. That night, Michael, the guy who creeped her out, was spotted driving around 3 a.m. The detectives called Michael in for questioning, and he claimed he was out driving his father's pickup truck. He also said that his girlfriend could give an alibi for him. When the police questioned his girlfriend, she told them that she did not know where he was that night. When the police reported that back to him, he claimed that that was the wrong girlfriend. It was a different girlfriend that could provide an alibi. And then his story fell apart. The next day, they began searching for Dana with the search team and search dogs. Friends and family continued to consistently search for anything and hand out flyers. On August 5th, the authorities got a call that someone's dog brought back a woman's purse after it was let out to run. Investigators arrived to the area, which was about a mile from where her car was found, and began searching. During this search, they located her checkbook, driver's license, and other items from her purse. Searches continued all over that area, and nothing was found. A $5,000 reward was then offered for any information. Fall arrived, and the Stidham family still had no answers to Dana's disappearance. On September 16th, a local hunter in Benton County stumbled upon a shallow grave with skeletal remains and called authorities. About 90% of the skeletal remains were in the grave. They found some bones scattered about 50 feet from the grave, and they also found a t-shirt with duct tape on it along with some of her jewelry. The Arkansas State Medical Examiner's Office in Little Rock said that Dana was possibly stabbed in the neck because there was a small nick on her shoulder bone and ruled Dana's death a homicide. They could not determine the actual cause of death because some bones were missing, and they did state that the nick on the neck could possibly be from an animal. Now the Stidham family and Dana's friends can put Dana to rest, and they did just that. Not long after, in December of that year, Dana's grave marker was stolen from the cemetery. The thief was none other than Michael. He was charged with the burglary of Dana's gravesite marker. He claims that he was sad and he missed her funeral because he joined the Navy and thought it would be okay because they just throw it away. He wanted something to remember her by. In 1998, a Bella Vista detective made a statement that they believed they knew who killed Dana but did not have enough evidence for an arrest. The detective and Benton County Sheriff believed that the murderer was a former classmate. He continued to state that the suspect didn't date Dana. She had no interest in him. They explained that they only have circumstantial evidence, including a failed polygraph and questionable alibi. When the FBI gathered information to create a profile for the murderer, they ended up coming to the same conclusion as the detectives and sheriff. The sergeant said there is some information being withheld since it's an ongoing and active investigation. They've continued searching for answers to Dana's murder. They've tracked down that pickup truck that Michael was driving the night and sent it to the lab in Texas. The results came in to the Arkansas Crime Lab in Little Rock, and they both agreed that the hair samples closely matched Dana's. At this point, Michael submitted to a polygraph, and it was reported that he made a weird statement. "Sometimes I think I did kill Dana, but I know I didn't." They continued investigating him and asked for a hair sample in September 1996. His attorney objected to it because he claimed that there wasn't any evidence linking his client to the murder. The Benton County judge signed a court order for the sample. Benton County prosecutor then decided not to move forward. The hair samples didn't have the follicle at the end, which is why it was a close match and not 100%. There hasn't been any new tips in the case, but they still feel they had the right suspect. Michael kept a picture of Dana's in his wallet years after her murder and would visit the grave in the middle of the night and cry. Not long after the murder, he joined the Navy. I did have the pleasure of speaking to one of his exes, who stated that he was never violent with her, but they did break up because he cheated. She said that it's possible he could have had another side to him. Dana's father and brother have since passed on, and her mother does not want to go to her grave not knowing what happened to Dana. If you have any information about the Dana Stidham case, please contact Benton County Sheriff's Office at 479-271-1008 or the Bella Vista Police Department at 479-855-3771. Thanks again for listening to episode 11 of Strictly Homicide. At the end of this episode, I will play promos from Murder Mile, Augie Peterson, and Dark Poutine, so make sure to stick around for those. Strictly Homicide is written and hosted by me, Nicki T. The original music and production is done by Mr. T. No, not that one, my Mr. T.
If you have enjoyed the show, please remember to tell a friend and rate us and review us on iTunes. You can also help support the show on Patreon. Just search for Strictly Homicide Podcast.
If there is a case that you would like us to discuss, or if you have any comments, corrections, or suggestions, send us an email at strictlyhomicide@yahoo.com or contact us on social media. Visit our webpage at strictlyhomicide.com, where you can find links to all our social media, Patreon page, merchandise, and a button for one-time donations. For news on the podcast and pictures from the episode I cover, you can find our Facebook page, discussion group, and Instagram by searching for Strictly Homicide Podcast, and on Twitter at StrictlyHMICIDE. Stick around to hear a few promos, and until the next time, y'all stay safe, especially you, Arkansas.
Hi, I'm Michael, host of the Murder Mile True Crime Podcast, which was nominated as one of the best British true crime podcasts of 2018, is based on my 5-star rated guided walk, and features more than 300 untold, unsolved, and long-forgotten murders, all set within 1 square mile of London's West End. So if you love hearing about new cases for the first time, old cases through a fresh pair of ears, and classic cases with a twist, all researched using the original declassified police investigation files, written using first-hand accounts, and recorded using authentic sounds from the murder location itself, then Murder Mile is just for you. Download the Murder Mile True Crime Podcast on iTunes, Acast, or your favourite podcast platform every Thursday. Thank you for listening, and stay safe.
Hey folks, how's it going? My name is Augie Peterson. I'm a self-published author and host of the short stories of Augie Peterson, the podcast. Once I realized that not everyone has the attention span to sit in front of a screen and read them, I decided to turn my 2 blogs into a podcast. On Tuesdays, I read some of my original work. That might mean a story, a chapter from my current work in progress, or a contest entry I'm super proud of. I'm a firm believer that happy endings are overrated, so don't expect to find any in my stories. On Thursdays, I review bad horror movies. I peruse Netflix, Amazon Prime, and even Redbox for the worst of the worst, and sarcastically let you in on what I thought of them. If you can't laugh along with me or handle sarcasm, you might want to skip my Thursday episodes. At some point, I even hope to have guests. Right now, you can find me on Podbean, iTunes, and Google Play. I look forward to creeping you out. See you on the other side. Toodaloo.
Have you been bludgeoned to death with Ted Bundy stories? Are you choking on too many Hillside Strangler podcast episodes? As awesome as those are, cleanse your palate and add something new to your true crime diet. Why not try some Dark Poutine, a podcast from north of the 49th parallel? We cover Canadian crimes and dark histories. Some of the stories you may know nothing about, but they beg to be told. And with Canada being the biggest small country on the planet, we even have personal connections to some of the crimes and history we chat about. Join 2 real live Canadians every week as we serve up another helping of Dark Poutine. We are substantially creepy, sometimes meaty, always cheesy, but very rarely sorry. So come on up north and fill your ears with some Dark Poutine.